Welcome back into the Pick and Roll NBA podcast with Jet and Sap, presented by Full Press Coverage. All-Star Weekend has now come and gone, and while there were some lowlights like the dunk contest, there were some definite highlights. The game itself, I think, was the absolute crown jewel of the weekend, which it really should be. And we got a spectacular performance from Steph Curry and LeBron James, and a game that ended on a game-winning shot. And really, the whole weekend was just a lot of fun because all the legends were there for the 75th anniversary, Sap. So overall, what were your impressions of the All-Star Weekend this year?
Well, All-Star Saturday is kind of lost some of its steam, right? I mean, the three-point contest is okay, but if you don't have Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant and all the great three-point shooters in there, it kind of loses some of its luster. I mean, Karl-Anthony Towns won it, and good for him. And it just shows where the league is now, that a 7-footer could win the three-point contest. Something that Dirk Nowitzki did, but you think of Nowitzki more as a stretch four than, say, Karl-Anthony Towns, who is a superb three-point shooter. So he won that. The dunk contest either has to go or change. Like the way it is right now with four unknown guys participating, it just has
It was unwatchable this
luster.
year.
It really was. It's just, I think Stephen A. Smith threw something out a couple days ago. He said, get some NBA players to go to their respective hometowns and go to like the playgrounds and find guys that can dunk, that are phenomenal dunkers. They're not NBA caliber players, but they can do things on the basketball court that would, be awe-inspiring, and sponsor those guys. I think that would be a pretty good idea. Or I would just go have a game of horse, just like you did during the pandemic. Remember, that didn't really work out because it was done virtually via Zoom. The one player was in their backyard. I think Trae Young was in his driveway, and Mike Connolly had like a full court basketball court in his house. It was like, okay, this is a little bit strange and awesome. I mean, if I made $27 million a year, I'd have a full court basketball court in my house too. I'd have a tennis court. I'd have a pool, even though I don't swim. I'd have all those toys. But maybe a game of horse would be interesting. And if you could get, again, Curry and Durant and, the Chris Paul or whoever, the guys that are the skilled guys to do something like that. The game was fine. Now LeBron James has more buzzer-beating, game-winning shots in the regular season, in the postseason, and in the All-Star game than Michael Jordan has. So I just want to make sure people realize that. I thought halftime was the highlight.
That's nice for him.
It is. I mean, it's the regular season, postseason, and All-Star games. He's got more buzzer-beating, game-winning shots than Michael. Just look it up. It's true. I don't make it up. I thought halftime was the highlight, though, when you brought out all the great players, the 76 players, not 75, that made the silver anniversary team. And just to see Michael Jordan and LeBron embrace, and maybe it sounds sappy, and I'll use that term because that's my nickname, Sap. But I thought that was pretty cool. The two greatest players embracing.
I was going to say, did it warm your heart, Sap, that moment?
A little bit. And you could see the look on LeBron's face. He was like a little kid, right? I mean, that's his idol. Now, they've never really had a relationship. I think that's more Jordan's doing than LeBron's doing. I'm sure LeBron would love to have a relationship with Michael Jordan, but Jordan has always kind of given him the Heisman and pushed him away. Maybe as Jordan gets older, he becomes more mellow. I doubt it. He's still a pretty competitive, mean-spirited guy at times. We saw that in The Last Dance. But I thought that was really, really impressive. And a few other things, seeing some of the old players there. Jerry West, my Lord, does he look 15 or 20 years younger than he is? I mean, he looks like he could go out there and still play. He's, I think, 84. He looks about 65. He looks phenomenal. Robert Parrish and Kevin McHale representing the Celtics, they both look really good. The oddest part of it, though, Jet, was every time they would go to a player who wasn't there and they were like waving with a white screen behind them, that had to be the most awkward looking thing I've ever seen, whether it was Bird or Pippen or whoever. And why the hell wasn't Scottie Pippen there? Like, why not show up and, make yourself available? Maybe say hi to Michael Jordan. Yeah, he was afraid of Michael Jordan.
Right.
And and of the current players who made the team, I give James Harden credit. He made the All-Star team, but he didn't play. He was there. Kevin Durant's grandmother passed away, so obviously that's a very valid excuse. Where the hell was Russell Westbrook and Anthony Davis?
Yeah, they should have been there. Come on.
They should have been there. Come on. You planned on making the All-Star team at the beginning of the year, so don't tell me you had other plans. Show up. And don't you think it would have been cool maybe for Russell Westbrook to embrace Oscar Robertson, who, it kind of invented the triple-double, or maybe Anthony Davis embracing I don't know, Elvin Hayes, who was a great power forward, or embracing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, one of the all-time greats. I thought that would have been cool. That was a turnoff, and maybe that's just the state of the Lakers at this point. That their second and third best players don't even get it to show up to All-Star Weekend.
Yeah, like Lillard showed up. I mean, he hasn't played in weeks.
That's right.
He obviously was in the game. He showed up. Harden, as big of a pain in the ass as he is, like you said, he showed up. I'm trying to think of the other guys.
Carmelo
was there. Yep, he was there. Obviously, LeBron was in the game. So that wasn't, and Giannis was in the game, so that wasn't much of an issue for them. But yeah, no, there was no reason to not show up to this if you're one of the. I mean, some of the older guys, I get it. They're worried about COVID. Larry Bird's got a really bad back. I'm sure that impacts his traveling. So I get it with some of those guys. But like you said, Westbrook and Anthony Davis, no reason to not show up to this. Come on.
You should be honored to be on that team, and you can make a case. Yeah, I mean, I don't even think Anthony Davis really belongs on that team quite yet. Westbrook does. I mean, the guy won an MVP 4 of the last 5 years. He's averaged a triple-double. I mean, as much as his production hasn't exactly translated into winning, obviously he deserves to be on there. But yeah, just show up. I mean, that would be the coolest moment ever. Like I said, how cool would that have been to see Westbrook and Oscar Robertson together? Because Oscar Robertson has praised Russell Westbrook over the years. And I kind of found it a little funny because we saw Oscar Robertson and Jerry West sitting together. And of course, that was the greatest backcourt ever. They didn't play together, but in the history of the game, till like Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan came by and surpassed them. That if you at the 25th anniversary or the 35th anniversary team, your starting backcourt would have been Oscar Robertson and Jerry West, right? Because Magic was in his second year and Jordan was just getting out of high school. So that would have been the all-time backcourt, and they were sitting together. You could tell the great respect they have for each other. And LeBron went over there, and you could see Oscar Robertson thinks LeBron's the greatest player ever. West thinks it's Jordan. And you kind of see that LeBron kind of embraced Oscar and just kind of gave a passing handshake to Jerry West. Because again, West is still involved in basketball. He's involved with he's been involved with Golden State. He's involved with the Clippers. So maybe there's a little bit of tension there. Now LeBron's with the Lakers, and the Lakers, for some unforeseen reason, have kind of pushed West out of the way, which is crazy. He's, the logo, for God's sakes. That and yeah, I was turned off by that. But still, the highlight to me was Jordan and LeBron embracing, and then people being surprised that Jordan got the biggest ovation. Michael Jordan is the most popular athlete in the history of this country.
Yeah.
Period. End of story. Like
that's why they had him come out last too. By the way, that was not a coincidence.
Yeah, that wasn't just by mistake. It wasn't done by alphabet. He's J. Of course, I was surprised he was there. There's certain athletes, Jet, in my lifetime. Like Joe Montana has a similar vibe. Like Brady's the greatest quarterback ever, but Joe Montana has this kind of mysterious vibe because he doesn't do much. You don't see him very often. In baseball, it was always Joe DiMaggio. Like when Joe DiMaggio showed up to something, it was serious, and he had to be introduced as the greatest living ball player, which, obviously he had a massive ego. And really at no point do I think he was ever the greatest living ball player, because Willie Mays was alive at the same time.
I know that you're Ted Williams to no end, that Joe DiMaggio did that.
Right. Exactly. Yep, exactly. And that's how DiMaggio carried himself. But DiMaggio was always in a suit and a tie, always very elegant looking, kind of like Jerry West we saw the other night, or Sandy Koufax is kind of the same way. If you saw Sandy Koufax now, you go, holy crap, this guy looks 25 years younger than he is. Some guys just carry themselves with a lot of elegance, and Jordan does too, right? You see the bald head. He's always perfectly manicured and dressed. He's cool. Michael Jordan is cool. The most popular athlete in the history of this country. It's not even close, right? I mean, I don't even know who's second. And I'll argue with people that LeBron's a better basketball player, but Michael Jordan is still the most popular athlete in this country. My 6-year-old niece knows Michael Jordan. She gets a pair of Jordans every Christmas. She went to see Space Jam, but before that, she saw the Jordan version and liked it better than LeBron version. And she told me that just to kind of, get me irritated, I think. But that's how big he is. There's no one even close to him. You can talk about Tom Brady and Peyton Manning and Brett Favre and whoever else. It's not even close. It's like, I know people, and I got to interview him a few times very early in his career, so it wasn't quite what it is now, obviously. But there are people that say when he enters the room, it's almost as if he isn't really a real person, that he literally is like levitating. That's how big he is. And And I just thought it was cool that he showed up. And you know, maybe now as he's approaching 60, maybe a little bit of a softer side to him. Well, let's hope. I mean, you know, he's considered the greatest player ever, right? We see all the polls. The Atlantic came out with their top 75 in order. ESPN came out with their top 75 in order. He's one. LeBron's two. I'm fine with that. I think LeBron should be one, but I understand why Jordan's one. You know, maybe just kind of enjoy, you know, the next 25, 30, let's hopefully 40 years of your life, and maybe embrace LeBron a little bit. They're not in competition at this point. I mean, yeah, maybe they are if we're going to debate it, but that doesn't really affect those guys. I mean, they're both billionaires, for God's sakes.
I was just, I was surprised he did seem so happy to be there.
Yeah.
He was embracing a lot of people. Obviously he was not embracing some people. I didn't see him with Isaiah Thomas at all.
No, you're not going to see that.
You could see that I think the first person he, hugged was Dennis Rodman, who he clearly must still be close with. Magic Johnson, clearly still close with Magic Johnson, who everybody likes. So
Magic's the guy everybody likes. Yeah, Magic's
I don't think Magic that's much of a problem.
Yeah, Matt, I kind of carry myself like Magic Johnson, to be honest with you. I just get along with everybody. Like, what's the point of fighting with people? Like, Magic has always been that guy. So cool. I mean, Magic was like, let's pick up sides and let's go at it, because they're both ultra competitive. So that's not a big deal. I wish Bird had made it, but again, like you said, traveling is not that easy, and he's kind of a recluse at some point. Like he's not big into those types of events, but
no, it would have been great if all of them could make it. But Bill Russell's in his 80s, and he's got some health issues and was worried about COVID, and so it was a shame he wasn't there. But you understand. But to me, the coolest part of the whole game, and I thought the game was terrific, and I love the Elam ending thing, and I think it forces the players to be competitive. But I watch the Oscars every year, Sap. Even though I don't, some years I really don't care about the movies, because I love the history of the movies and that celebration. And even more than the history of movies, I love the history of basketball. And so I couldn't get enough of this. And I've watched all the, behind the scenes stuff that the NBA has now put out. And, a lot of the players, especially the younger players and the more recently retired guys like Paul Pierce, have Instagrams, and they were, filming while they were doing all these photo shoots together. And it's just like, it's so cool to see like Paul Pierce interact with Bob Pettit, or Giannis interact with Jerry Lucas or something like that. It's just it's really cool for somebody who loves the history of basketball to have see these guys all in the same room together, interacting with each other. I just think it was amazing. I mean, that's was the highlight for me. And as far as the rest of the weekend goes, like you said, the dunk contest sucked. They need to make some sort of change to it. 3-point contest was okay. The skills challenge, not everybody watches that. I do, because I watch everything. But that's sort of like the appetizer for the All-Star Saturday. So that was fine. They made some interesting changes to that, and the game was good. So overall, the weekend was, I'd say, a solid B. And then the having all the legends there, moved it way higher to an A range for me. But yeah, I just loved watching, all these guys, some of the guys who I didn't realize were still alive and kicking, being there, which is just really cool. And I wasn't surprised, like you said, that Jordan got the loudest ovation. LeBron, I believe, got probably the second loudest ovation, and I think Allen Iverson and Kobe Bryant too got very very loud ovations.
Yeah, and Iverson, I think if you poll the modern players, Jordan, Kobe, and Iverson are their three favorites. Pretty by a large margin. Like, as great as LeBron is, there's like no one playing that. I think other than Luka. Luka's favorite player was LeBron. And he kind of has
Jordan's favorite player is Luka. He was the first.
He loves Luka. Yeah,
he was the first guy in the game that Jordan bear hugged him and ran up from behind. I was like, is this tampering? I don't.
Why not? The whole league is tampering. What the hell? Why not?
But I was surprised that he gravitated. The first person I saw him grab of the guys who were playing in the game was Luka. I was like, I didn't realize Jordan and Doncic had any sort of relationship.
Yeah, maybe trying to recruit him to Charlotte or whatever. And obviously we know Jordan's always loved Westbrook and Iverson, and Kobe was his younger brother. Right. I mean, it's just, and they had that relationship, and it's never going to be like that with LeBron. To begin with, they're different guys. Like different players. Like, I've always pushed back on the comparison, and I'll have that debate. I think LeBron's greater than Jordan as a basketball player. I'm not talking into branding and worldwide impact in terms of the sport and everything else that Jordan just trumps everybody. But they're different players. Like the player most like LeBron is Magic Johnson, except LeBron scores 8 or 9 more points per game and is a better defender. Like that was always my argument with LeBron. It's like, okay, look at Magic Johnson. LeBron does everything Magic could do on the court, except he scores more. He's a better scorer and he's a better defender. And he's had a longer career. So that shows you how great he is. Jordan, Kobe, those guys are more aligned because that's how they played. So even their personalities are different, Jet. Like LeBron's and Jordan's. LeBron is an inclusive guy, whereas Jordan was a guy who would punch his teammates. Was just angry.
Okay, passive aggressive is what you mean to describe
passive aggressive.
And Jordan was aggressive.
Aggressive, exactly. Just like my favorite quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, very passive aggressive.
LeBron, in fact, spent a large portion of All-Star Weekend being passive aggressive towards his own general manager.
Where was why all the praise of Sam Presti? Who that must have lit you up because you love Sam Presti, right?
The reverse tampering.
Reverse tampering. Now he's tampering. It's a player tampering with the general manager. I don't think LeBron's going to Oklahoma City anytime soon. And did you notice too when he named all the great players that Presti's drafted, he never mentioned James Harden?
Did he forget?
No. LeBron and Aaron Rodgers are the two most calculating athletes, along with Tom Brady. All three of those guys, when they say something, they've kind of already know what they're going to say. Like he brought up, oh yeah, look, he drafted Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook and Serge Ibaka, and he just kept going on about all the great players. I'm like, LeBron's smart enough and knows, because LeBron's a basketball junkie. I think he'd be the guy, if you were neighbors, you guys would hook up and watch basketball games together, like on a nightly basis. He never mentioned James Harden. I'm like, that's interesting. But
is he on everybody's shit list these days?
I guess so. Which, what's going to make me start rooting for the guy? Like everybody hates him. I'm like, the guy's pretty damn good basketball player. He deserved to be on this, 75.
No doubt he did. Yeah.
I know it's like fashionable to bash the guy, but as I've said before, I can count on one hand the players that I've seen in this league who are elite scorers and elite facilitators, and he's one of them. So.
But Sap, the question was about the rookie on the Thunder, Josh Giddey, and LeBron. They were just asking because he's a match LeBron in terms of youth for triple doubles, stuff like that. And so they were asking about that too. And he somehow managed to turn it into praising Sam Presti and backdoor bashing Rob Pelinka.
Yeah, it's a weird situation in LA, and he's kind of throwing these hints that maybe go to Cleveland. He
brought that up out of thin air too.
Yeah, maybe he's drinking too much tequila, and Rodgers is drinking too much scotch, and they're just, letting loose. They really don't care at this point in their career what they say, if they're tampering or breaking any rules.
What, he so badly wanted John Wall? Like that would have fixed the problems of the Lakers this year?
No. Yeah, I mean, you'd have to throw in a first-round pick to make that happen. I mean, John Wall to me is a poor man's version of Russell Westbrook, like hyper-athletic guy.
This was his choice to bring in Russell Westbrook. It wasn't Rob Pelinka's choice. In fact, I think him and Anthony Davis overruled the Buddy Hield trade. That Buddy Hield's not as good a player as Russell Westbrook, but they'd be much better off right now with Buddy Hield.
Sure. And they would have been better off keeping Kyle Kuzma, KCP, Montrezl Harrell. I mean, why not run that back last year? I mean, look, if we both agree, if LeBron and Anthony Davis were healthy last year, they would have made a run at it. They may have won the title. So. And I still think this year, if they're both healthy, which isn't going to happen because Anthony Davis can't stay healthy, but they could still be a scary team in the postseason. LeBron's playing at a high level. And if Anthony Davis, gets out there, and when he came back from his first injury this year, he's playing pretty well. But then you got to see where the other pieces are. But yeah, Kuzma, KCP, Montrezl Harrell, Caruso would have still been a nice guy on the Lakers bench.
I just think it was an interesting All-Star weekend for LeBron, Seth, because, obviously he's always going to be, the headline because he's the face of the NBA. And so he was talking about, bashing his own general manager without naming him and saying, the door's open to playing in Cleveland again. And he obviously hit the game-winning shot. And I thought played fantastic in the game itself. And also, Seth, mentioned that his last season, he's going to play with his son, Bronny, wherever that ends up being. I have a couple of questions and points about that, Sap. If you want to be the LeBron counselor for this, or represent LeBron as you usually do.
I don't charge much. I charge $125 per hour. So let's put this together and we'll send this to LeBron.
That's as if I should for an attorney.
It is, yeah. I mean, maybe I should charge like $375. Plus, I'm really not the guy to give parenting advice since I'm, not a parent. But I'll try.
You have a lot of surrogate kids.
I do, yeah. You're one of them, right? I consider you like a nephew. I got a lot of nephews. I'm Uncle Sap. I remember when we were 15 together, 10 together. Everybody there called me Uncle Sap, which I guess that's okay.
Okay, so here are my questions for you, Sap. I'll start with this. Are we sure Bronny wants to play with his dad for a season?
Probably not. I mean, probably not. There's a lot of pressure there, right? And like
so much pressure.
Yeah, it's like, sure, that sounds like a good idea. Now, Ken Griffey Jr. played for a short period of time with Seattle with his dad. The difference there is Ken Griffey Jr. was a great player. It was his dad who kind of better than his dad, the same way that Barry Bonds was better than his dad, right. Bobby Bonds, who was a great player too.
Bronny they never played together. Not better than his dad.
No, that's probably not going to happen, right? Like, since I think he's the greatest player ever, I don't think his son's going to be better unless he's, like Secretariat. Look, Secretariat never sired really great horses. He was just a great horse himself. Yeah, and again, 16 and 17-year-old kids generally don't want to hang around their parents now.
Right.
Dad is LeBron, maybe it's a little bit different. That's like the whole excuse Brady gave. I want to be around the kids. Well, he's got two sons, 14 and 12, who probably don't want to really be around him. They're like, Dad, like they've got their friends. And, Bronny's favorite player is probably Ja Morant or someone else besides his father, right? Like, if LeBron takes that the wrong way, then he's very insecure. But yeah, I don't know if Bronny wants to play with his dad, but I also don't know, is Bronny really a prospect? Like, when I hear maybe
that's the second question.
Pick.
Yeah, okay. So I don't think the kid is, that he's talented, obviously. He's playing he plays minutes at a very competitive high school, and he's being recruited by legitimate colleges. So I'm not going to say that he's not talented. But if his name was, Joe Christopher, right. I don't know that he would be getting the same offers, and I don't know that he would be drafted into the NBA. What LeBron has done here is essentially inflated his own kid's draft stock, because you get a year of LeBron James, and even in 2 years, I still think he's going to be a good. He may not be an MVP candidate, but he'll be still a damn good player. So he's kind of boosted the draft stock of his son, which that's fine. You could do that. But also, like I said, I don't know if the kid wants to play with him for a year. You kind of, got to adjust to the NBA in your own terms. Don't know how good the kid is, so don't know how much he's going to even realistically play. And if it's a young team that drafts him, Sap, and they kind of have a direction, LeBron James I know he creates a lot of money and stuff like that, but he also creates a little bit of a sideshow. Not every team, I don't think, would want to sign up for that, depending on where they're at.
Right. No, you're exactly right. I mean,
so is there even a guarantee that they would sign LeBron if they draft Bronny?
He's tough to turn down. And again, he's 37 right now. Bronny is a junior in high school. And by the way, he's considered the third best prospect on his high school team. So I don't know where that leads him in a couple of years. Is he going to have a growth spurt? He's only 6'3". The dad's 6'9". I mean, the dad is the best package in the history of basketball. I will die on a hill with that one. Like, you could tell me who's better and who's worse, whatever. As far as a physical presence, there's never been anybody like that. I mean, the guy is as big as Karl Malone, with Allen Iverson's speed, with Magic Johnson's acumen and passing ability, with great I mean, like, that is the total package, right? I mean, he's got a better skill set than anybody that's ever played, including Michael Jordan, Will Chamberlain, all these great players. Okay,
yeah, so I'd agree with you there.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you like, I go at it with guys with quarterbacks. Like, I think Aaron Rodgers is more gifted than Brady, but not a better quarterback. Different discussion. But in terms of this, yeah, so LeBron's 37. Bronny has to play one more year of high school and then 1 year of college, right? Because you still have to go to college for 1 year, so that when Bronny's coming into the NBA, LeBron will turn 40 that December. Now, again, he'll still be a phenomenal player in the league, only because he's got so many different ways to beat you. Right? Like, by then, he could just decide, you know what, I'm going to lead the league in rebounding this year, because that's best for me at the age of 40, or I'm going to lead the league in assists, or whatever. He's got that type of skill set. So, at that point, yeah, he can certainly help a team. But but 1 year of this, it does create somewhat of a circus atmosphere. Does a team that has no traction go in on this and say, yeah, it's worth it for 1 year, we're going to be on TV a lot. We'll sell out. We'll sell out road games. Maybe we'll catch lightning in the bottle or whatever. I mean, is a contending team going to say, yeah, let's go for this and see where it goes? And maybe it does turn
conversely,
into some
Sap,
sort
if
of
you're a bad team, do you burn the pick on a guy that might not be a very good player for 1 year of LeBron?
Well, doesn't this become interesting, Jeff? Because where does he get drafted? If he's really a second round talent, but some team says, hey, late first round, let's take this guy because we're going to get 1 year of LeBron. That's a decision you have to make. And we see all these teams, and maybe he's putting it out to Oklahoma City, because how many draft picks does Oklahoma City have over the next 7 years? Like 22 of them? Literally, I'm not exaggerating. So one of those can be used on Bronny. But does LeBron want to finish his career in Oklahoma City? And
right.
maybe by then
Sacramento.
Right. I mean, is it? I would like to see him finish his career in Cleveland. I think that would be pretty cool. They're a contending team. You put him in there. Maybe you put him over the top. But I'd like to see him go there before the age of 40. I would like to see him back in Cleveland next year, because this Laker situation isn't pretty. That's going to be difficult. But I mean, is Dan Gilbert, who owns Cleveland, and they still don't have a good relationship, is he going to want LeBron back? Is
right.
He
I think he relishes the success without LeBron.
Oh,
sure.
He's
playing well this year, so he's got to feel really good about that.
Yeah,
they have a better record than the Lakers, I think, right? Yes, they do.
Much better record. They're 12 games over 500. They're like fourth in the East. The Lakers suck. And look, Dan Gilbert's a very rich man. He's got more money than LeBron James, and people have said, oh, LeBron's going to buy Cleveland. I go, that's probably the last franchise he's going to own, because Dan Gilbert's not going to sell it to him. Right. We both agree Portland makes the most sense, because they'll probably be for sale at some point. I wouldn't be shocked if the Fenway Sports Group buys the Portland Trailblazers. We know they're looking at an NBA team, and that makes a lot of sense. And LeBron is already 2% owner of Fenway Sports Group. Maybe he can kick in more money and kind of be the overseer of that franchise. It's near Nike. It's on the West Coast.
Yeah, but they can't buy it. They can't buy it
not while he's playing. Right.
While he's playing, or he'd have to divest from it.
Right. So that could be 3-4 years down the road. This is a complicated thing. Now I'll turn it to you as the Celtics. If Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are still here, and the Celtics are, a good contending team, but maybe not a championship team, do you go ahead and say, yeah, come join us for 1 year and we'll draft Bronny and see what happens? And maybe LeBron can teach Tatum and Brown about winning and, be like at that point, like the grandfather on the team. Is that something that you'd be open to? I know Celtic fans hate LeBron, but you respect the hell out of him.
Yeah, I'd have no problem with it. I think it's everything now is in chase of, a championship. So if they think that would help them win a championship, sure. But at this rate, Brad Stevens is doing the opposite of Danny Ainge and trading all their picks. So
right.
I don't know that the Celtics will have the ability to. Again, I'm not sure. They're saying right now he projects as a mid-second round pick. I'm not sure. We'll see what he is in college. He could not even be worthy of the NBA, but still be drafted because his dad is LeBron James, which I'm sure will piss a lot of people off. But that's sort of the nature of the beast. But it's all really interesting because there's a lot of all these scenarios we talked about. Like, does he want to play with him? How much pressure is he putting on his kid? Does his team want the circus? What kind of team wants LeBron James? Is he going to finish his year on a crap team, on a good team?
Right.
Like it's an interesting thing. No father and son have ever played together in the NBA, correct?
No, not that I am aware of. Not even remotely. Yeah, only because of the age difference. I mean,
right, exactly.
He had Bronny at a pretty young age, and he's had this incredibly long career. So
it's happened in hockey. For that it's happened in baseball.
Oh, yeah.
But it's never happened in the NBA, and I can't imagine it's ever happened in football.
No, if Brady had a kid earlier, it might have been possible. But I think his oldest son is 14. So Brady's a freak. Is he going to play in 8 years? He takes a year off and comes back and plays 7 more. So yeah, you won't see it in that sport. But I think it would be a cool story. The only thing is, again, look, there's a ton of pressure on Bronny. He's named after his father, which is never an easy thing either. And LeBron's often talked about that maybe I shouldn't have named him after me. Give him a different name, a different identity, kind of be his own guy. Yeah, who knows how good he is. Look, Jordan had sons playing, I believe, in college, and they just weren't very good. But it was a different time.
Florida International, I think, or something
right?
Like
yeah,
that. They weren't particularly good.
No, and I think here's the thing about LeBron that's interesting. I think LeBron wants to be again, this is becoming there's some psychoanalysis in here, or analysis. Jordan came from a different background than LeBron. Jordan had strong parents in terms of, he had siblings. He grew up in kind of a middle-class family. strong father, strong mother, real close with his siblings, competitive, all of that. LeBron's an only child from a single parent household. His mom, I believe, is 16 years older than him. They were moving from apartment to apartment. I think LeBron is so conscious of being a really great dad. I hope he doesn't turn into LeVar Ball, like where it's a little too much, where he wants to be such a great dad because he never had one, that he goes overboard and becomes kind of like a helicopter parent, which I think is
he's
something
done a little
is
bit
a
at some
turn-off.
of the games I've seen.
He has.
Well, it's also it's hard for him, and this is why he'll never be a coach in the NBA.
No,
because he knows more than everybody else, so he can't help himself. But for to be in the refs' ears at the high school games and the coaches' ears,
and you're being literal about that. He is essentially a basketball genius. Right? I mean, we can agree on that. I mean, his acumen for the sport is at a level that I think you could put Bird and Magic. Those are the three guys that I've seen.
No, I know.
Like
Kyrie's called himself a basketball genius. He's not.
Yeah. Well, we know
LeBron is an actual basketball genius.
Yeah, those are the three guys that and I think Isaiah Thomas and Chris Paul are pretty close there, and Bill Russell certainly. I mean, you don't win that much without just being smarter than everybody and better than everybody. But yeah, those are the three guys I looked at and said, wow, these guys just saw the game completely differently than everybody else. As great as Jordan was, he was just a force of nature. Like, it was just like, get the hell out of my way. I mean, if LeBron was a coach, you'd have a camera isolated on him and they'd put him up in the corner box, like the whole game. Be like, okay, we got to watch what LeBron's doing on the.
They couldn't do it.
He couldn't do it. No, it's kind of a turnoff in a sense, but I think he means well. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I think he wants to be there for his son, and he wants to be such a good parent because he didn't have that. Whereas Jordan, I think kind of like Jordan was busy too. Like, he was still playing, and then he was involved.
I don't even know if he likes his son, Sap.
I don't even know. I mean, again, these are two totally different guys. Like, you could not find two more different guys than LeBron and Michael Jordan. Right. Like Jordan, like, did you really get the feeling that he was this family guy? Like, I think he would prefer to go to Vegas and gamble. Like, they may have wooed him to this All-Star game by telling him that he could bet on it, like, or whatever, like, start throwing money around. They're two totally different guys. And again, LeBron, I think, means well, but this could be a little bit too much and put a lot of pressure on a young man who, maybe he wants to go to school, stay 4 years and get a degree in business and, maybe work in the family business as a businessman. Like,
no, I mean, when you're talking about a mid-second round pick, and again, that's a big prognostication because he's 16. Those guys typically don't last very long in the NBA.
No.
So, if by saying right now he's a mid-second round pick, you're saying he's probably not long for the NBA. So, listen, he doesn't have to work. His dad has made enough money, so he never has to. But I'm assuming the kid is going to want to have some sort of career for himself if the NBA doesn't work out. So, yeah, maybe he does want to go to college for longer because it sets him up for a better chance at having.
Maybe he wants to be a doctor. Like, I don't know. Like, I mean, I know LeBron's always felt he kind of wanted to go to Duke. Like, that was always kind of like a dream of LeBron to have Bronny go to Duke or, wherever. I mean, UCLA, because it's in Southern California. Maybe the kid wants to get away from everyone and go do. I mean, we've talked about being children of the president. Like, that's a very difficult thing to be, especially if you're young, like the Obama girls were or the Bush twins were when their dads were president. I mean, this is similar, right? It's like, that's LeBron
he's
James'
got high school
son.
games on national TV, and he's obviously whatever college he's going to go to is going to have a lot, but he might not play, and that's there's a lot of pressure.
Know,
he's if he goes to Duke, he very well might not play on Duke, and so every game there's going to be pictures of him on the bench, and then he's going to come out after a freshman year of Duke because he's expected to, even though he didn't play much on Duke and still get he's put him in an uncomfortable situation. It's not LeBron's fault, because he's trying to do a lot, but it is the reality of it is the kid is going to have just an insane amount of pressure on him, and already does.
And it's the time we live in, right? With Twitter and all the social media and constant. I mean, look, debate shows on Fox Sports 1 and ESPN may cease to exist if LeBron retires. Like, what the hell are Skip and Shannon going to debate? Because that's like half their show.
Brady gone too.
If Brady's gone, now what's Skip and Shannon going to debate?
That's the other half of their show.
That is pretty much it. There's 1 hour. It's LeBron, Jordan. The other hour is Brady, and we'll throw there, and then the other hour is the Cowboys. That's pretty much what they talk about, and they just pound home with it, and it seems to work. Skip's making $6.5 million a year, and Shannon's making about $4 million, so God bless them. But I think it's very, very difficult to figure. It looked like Austin Rivers, Doc Rivers' son, but Austin Rivers was a top 10 pick. He was a highly recruited high school player.
He was the number one high school player in the country for a bit of time.
He was damn good, and Doc was a really good NBA player, but it wasn't LeBron. So we're saying, okay, here's the greatest player ever, or the second greatest player ever, and here's his son.
No, there's a bunch of guys who are in the NBA right now whose dads played in the NBA. You saw one of the dunk contests, Cole Anthony.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'd say they're pretty comparable, right? Cole Anthony and Greg Anthony. Greg Anthony probably a little bit better because he had a really good college career at UNLV and had a long career in the NBA, a solid player. I'd say he and Doc Rivers are comparable type players, and maybe Cole Anthony would be as good as Austin Rivers, but they're all in that ground. With LeBron, it's going to look almost ridiculous. He's going to be 40 years old playing with his son, who's not even close to being as good as him. Like LeBron at 40 will still be better than his son.
Yes.
I mean, LeBron at 40 is going to be better than 99% of the league.
As Jordan is approaching 60, he's better than his sons still at basketball.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure if they all get together and have a pickup game, Jordan that's just the way it works. When you're that great. And again, we don't know. So that's putting a lot of undue pressure on Bronny. And, again, like you said, 16-year-old kids don't want to hang around their dads all the time. They kind of want to stay away from their dads. Now, I know it's cool having LeBron as your dad or Tom Brady as your dad or whatever, but, like I said, I'm sure Bronny's favorite player is probably John Morant or Steph Curry or Trae Young or whoever. It's not his dad.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation, and we still have a few years to see how it plays out. But part of me feels a little bad for him. I mean, I shouldn't. He's rich and famous, and he's gonna be fine no matter what he does in his life. But I would think when I was 16. If I had that much pressure, I mean, you have enough pressure on you when you're 16, trying to figure out how to flirt with girls or boys, if that's your preference, I guess. It's tough. So that was an interesting takeaway.
Let me just relay this little quick, something that I've experienced. Like I'm not trying to compare my dad, who's deceased, but my dad to Michael Jordan, but my dad ran construction jobs, and he would have 50 to 75 guys working for him. My two older brothers worked for him. It was difficult because your dad is the boss.
Yeah, and if you're on LeBron's team, he's the boss. He's
the boss, right? So
it's not the coach.
So,
it's not.
So now my dad's like, okay, I can't show favoritism to my sons because the other 38 guys that are working are going to resent that, but I don't want to be overly tough on them because then that's not right. So it's a fine line that you have to find, and that happens in any family business. And again, this is family business, basketball. It would be an incredible amount of pressure for Bronny. And again, it's still a few years away. And by then LeBron will probably be on some other team because I don't think he's going to end up retiring as a Laker. It doesn't look that way to me.
No, I don't think so. But except the last thing I wanted to talk about, just wrapping up All-Star Weekend, is we, have to talk about quickly the performance of Steph Curry in the game, who was just it's one, honestly, I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. It's one of the best games I've ever seen him play. I know he's had amazing games too, but it was ridiculous. Finished 17 of 30 from the floor, 16 of 27 from three, 50 points, won MVP. What were your thoughts about Steph Curry's game, Sep?
My Lord. And that was performance art. He's an artist on the basketball court. We know how much he's changed the game. Some of the shots he was hitting were 40-footers. There were a couple shots he took from the top of where as soon as he released it, he turned his back to the basket and ran back because he knew it was going to be good. I mean, imagine just being that good for one day. Imagine showing up to the playground and being that good. That's like Nirvana. That's how good he was. He's special player.
Yeah, a lot of people, and myself included, sometimes gets frustrated with the amount of threes in the NBA. And I don't think it's ruined the game. I think that's going way overboard, but it's definitely changed it in a lot of ways. And sometimes it's less appealing to watch, but not him.
No,
it's spectacular to watch. I was watching with my dad, and my dad's definitely an old school basketball guy who still likes to, have the ball go down in the paint and, play back to the basket, and wishes they would do that more. And I do too. But even he's just like, holy crap with Steph Curry. I mean, even the 1-2 he hit in the game was incredible. It was a little floater like behind the basket. I mean, no, it's incredible to watch. It's a blast to watch him play. When he's on, it's like nothing else in basketball. It's ridiculous. And the ball doesn't even like touch the net. It's crazy.
No, I mean, we've seen so many great shooters in the history of the sport. I mean, you younger than I am, and it's just incredible. He's the best ever. Like that. That's kind of a
close.
Given.
It's not close.
No, it's not, because it's. I don't even know how to describe it. Again, this is why he's the most popular player with young kids, and he's the most popular player with women. High school girls that play basketball absolutely love Steph Curry. College players love Steph Curry because he's relatable. I mean, he's 6'3", 180, 190. I mean, if he walked by you on the street, you'd say, he's probably an athlete, but you wouldn't say he's the greatest shooter ever. You wouldn't know that. And all the other great shooters like just bow down to him, whether it be Ray Allen or Reggie Miller. And look, I think his teammate Klay Thompson's in the discussion as well.
Ray Allen and Reggie Miller, as great as they were, and I know you're not a big Reggie Miller guy. I like Reggie Miller, and I'm not a big Ray Allen guy, though I appreciate him
for different reasons.
The skill, they couldn't do this.
No. Well, see, here's the thing.
What Steph Curry just did in this All-Star game, only Steph Curry could do.
What's interesting about it, Jet, is certain guys are catch and shoot guys. What he does different than everyone else is shoot off the dribble from 30 feet, 35 feet. Like that's a gift. And that's a lot of hard work, because his handle, which I think gets a little overrated. Like I think he's got a great handle, but it's not quite at the level of, say, Isaiah Thomas or Kyrie Irving. Those are the two guys I always think of, and maybe even Allen Iverson having the best handles I've ever seen. Curry has a great handle, but to shoot off the dribble the way he does, that's what separates him, because catch and shoot is one thing. You could try to run him off of screens. He's successful, but you can try to get
there's been a million of those guys.
Ray Allen was great at that. Reggie Miller, and those guys could also shoot off the dribble.
Kyle Korver, JJ Redick.
Exactly. Those are Klay Thompson. That's what Klay does better than I think anybody. I think Klay's probably the best catch and shoot 3-point shooter ever, but he can't shoot off the dribble like Steph. No one can. That's just a completely different. It's like comparing quarterbacks like Mahomes and Rodgers, who have the ability to throw with the different arm angles. Well, that's Steph Curry. It's something different that you can't defend that, because he can bring the ball up the court and from 40 feet pull up and drain a three. How do you defend that? It's impossible.
No, it was really a blast to watch. And I'm not the biggest Curry guy in the world. I acknowledge his greatness, and I think he, is all the accolades I think are worthy of him. But this was another level just of spectacular to watch. I mean, in a game that, all these legends are watching, and LeBron is on his same team, on the team that's named after LeBron because he's drafted, and he stole the show. And it was, he was going to win an MVP whether his team won or lost.
Oh yeah, when you score 50, that's pretty good. I mean, Anthony Davis, 5 years ago scored 52, but that was different. It just obviously, Anthony Davis got a different bunch of ways to score, but the way Curry did it was just like, holy crap.
It was really spectacular to watch. It was a blast. And when he's one of those players, maybe the most exciting player when he gets going in the NBA, because when he's that hot, it's like a video game. It's comical, like you said. I mean, he was hitting half court shots, and he knew they were going in from the second he released it. I mean, who the hell else could do that?
No one I've ever seen. Not from that distance. I mean, Larry Bird had an incredible amount of athletic arrogance, but back then, if Larry Bird took 4 threes in a game, that was a lot.
Right. Steph
Curry does that in a quarter and hits 3 of them.
Yeah, I mean, he was spectacular. He stole the show on and like I said, in a game that, LeBron hit the game winner. Giannis had 30 and 12 and 6 and 3, which are his typical numbers anyways. Yeah. Embiid had a great game. Every legend is there, and it was all anybody could talk about was Steph Curry. I mean, good for him. It was a fantastic performance. It was really fun to watch.
Yep.
All right, Sap. Well, I think that just about wraps up All-Star Weekend for us. We loved seeing all those legends there. Didn't love the dunk contest so much. I agree with you. It's either needs to go or they need to make some drastic changes. We can certainly talk about that more down the line. But that's going to do it for us here at the Pick and Roll NBA podcast with Jet and Sap. Make sure you Follow us wherever podcasts are found, and you can check out our social medias at JohnSapp25, at Jet Stryer. Check out the YouTube version of the show if you're not already, youtube.com/JetStryer. We are presented by Full Press Coverage, and we'll be back, I think, tomorrow with a new edition of the podcast, talking about an interesting poll question Mr. John Sappachetti had. So we'll be back then. Make sure you check that out. We'll talk to you later, everybody. See ya.